welcome. My name is David Silberman. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Clinical Research Fastrack. And today we have a very special guest, Nidhi Tiyyagura. Nidhi is a graduate of our program, graduated just over a year ago, has been working in the field, and it is my great honor and pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with Nidhi today. Nidhi, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a wonderful year. I had such an amazing start and first step into clinical research with Clinical Research Fastrack. So thank you so much for everything you've done and just the wonderful start I've had in research thanks to you and the program.
Well, I haven't seen you for a whole year in person, and it is such a pleasure. But just to get started, can we learn a little bit more about your educational background and what were you doing before you came to this program? What is your educational background?
So I actually went to medical school and I am a doctor, but I always wanted to do something a little bit different and I wanted to see what else was out there. And so after med school, I actually taught for a while. I tutored med students. I still have some students to this day. And then I also managed a medical office. And I also went into yoga and was part of an academy and promoting yoga and just trying to get yoga into the Olympics, fun stuff like that. So I've just been a little of everything. So I'm really happy to find clinical research though, because I've been really enjoying it so far.
Wow, wow. Well, first of all, I love yoga. I know I mentioned to you, I do a little bit of yoga every morning and it really makes me feel great. But you said you're a doctor. Now, are you licensed to practice in the United States or did you get your medical degree overseas? Or tell me more about your medical degree.
So I did study abroad.
Mhm.
So I'm still working on getting my license here, but I am licensed to practice in India. I did practice for about a year over there before coming over here. And, initially I thought, I'll just work on my boards while, just trying to see what research is like. And I really fell in love with research so far. So right now, my most of my day is research.
Fantastic. Oh, okay. So you're a doctor and you are working, teaching, and you're in the medical profession, but you wanted to get into clinical research. Tell me what happened. Like, how did you find Clinical Research Fast Track? What were you doing right before you came to our program?
Yeah, right before I was doing a little bit of teaching while I was managing a medical practice. And I was thinking, what can I do? What else can I do with my medical degree while, maybe I just think about studying or just see what other opportunities are out there. And when usually a lot of medical graduates, they go into translational research. And then when I found, oh, there's something called clinical research, a little bit different. And I really love how there's a lot more patient facing interactions and you're just involved with the clinical trials like firsthand. So I really love that, rather than just, reading and publishing manuscripts, you get to be part of the action. You get to be part of this beautiful process of getting new medications out there to patients who need it. So it's really rewarding. And also, working to, increase the outreach of these medications to underserved populations and getting more diversity in clinical research. So it's been very, very rewarding.
Fantastic. Okay, so you wanted to go into clinical research, and can you describe for everyone, or you said there's a difference between clinical research, translational research. You came into our course. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned in the Clinical Research Fast Track program?
Yeah, in the beginning, I wasn't quite sure, like exactly like on a day-to-day basis, what do you do in clinical research? And, with research, it's a little bit hard because a lot of it you learn like on the fly, like, by hands-on action. But the preview I got with Clinical Research Fast Track was great because it gave it a wonderful foundation to knowing what are the basic things you need to know to build on that, to become a great clinical research professional. Because I feel like a lot of people still don't know what clinical research is. So I really love that, we went in depth and like knowing all the basic terminology. And, initially I was like, oh, I'm sure it's, I didn't think it was going to be, so much. But when, I joined the course, I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot. Like, even if you know your medical terminology, even if you know this and that, there's a whole another language to clinical research. So I think that was really cool to find out, like, oh, there's certain, the way even data is recorded, on a data basis, different platforms you use, different studies, it's a whole different world.
Wow. So once you're in the course, you learn this is different. This isn't just like practicing medicine.
Right.
You probably learned a little bit about the consent process,
Yeah.
documentation, these data management systems. And then after you did the 8 days of live Zoom training, the video conferencing, what happened next? What happened as you were leaving that segment of the program? Do you remember?
So I did have a wonderful mentor, and she helped me work on applications and just kind of, I actually didn't have a LinkedIn before the course, because usually, I don't know, a lot of medical professionals don't really end up, using LinkedIn. But it was really wonderful to actually build that and network with other clinical professionals, and having that mentorship was really wonderful because sometimes we don't believe in ourselves or we don't know like how to market ourselves and say, hey, I learned this and this. I actually have a great foundation and I can, I have a great foundation to build upon and learn, because a lot of the jobs they want experience starting out, so it can be very daunting in this field. So that was really great to have that mentor kind of guide me along the way and be like, you're actually doing really great. Like you just, believe in yourself and what you've learned so far. And, so that was very motivating, inspiring as well.
Fantastic. So you worked with a mentor. They helped you with networking. They helped you really prepare for your job search. And then what happened? How did you find your job and where are you now?
So right now I'm at FOMAT Medical Research in Oxnard, and I found them within within 2 months of my job hunt. And I remember, I had been sending out a lot of applications, but actually, it was Lauren who helped me, suggest, hey, this might be a great place to join. And I read a little bit about them, and I really loved that, they were trying to increase diversity in clinical research. And another thing that I really liked was, sometimes with really large companies, you feel like, maybe you're just like another number. And I saw that in a smaller company that had, such commitment and passion for research, I could really excel there. And so I'm very thankful to Clinical Research Fastrack for helping me find them as well, because I'm very happy there.
We know FOMAT very well. I've met with their CEO several times, Nick, really nice guy. So you start at FOMAT Research, and what is the role that you're working in, and what can you tell a little bit about your day to day? Like, what do you do in clinical research?
So I'm a clinical research coordinator, and on a day-to-day basis, I work with my team. So we have a few coordinators, a few clinical research assistants. So we manage multiple studies. I am happy to say I'm lead CRC of multiple studies, and in the beginning, it seemed like a lot, but thanks to my foundation that I got from Clinical Research Fast Track, it didn't seem very too daunting. I was like, okay, this seems familiar. It was just a matter of getting used to the systems and the different platforms. So on a day-to-day basis, I usually just organize my day based on, okay, what visits do we have? We work together as a team to plan out, okay, for example, there's a screening visit, and I'm very confident with my informed consent process, so I'm that process is a breeze. And sometimes that discussion can take anywhere from like half an hour to 1 hour, a little bit more. So and then just preparing and just organizing if we have multiple visits across different studies. If there's a lot of like time management, project management skills that come into play, where we delegate each other to, prioritize which task we can do, make sure all of our data is entered correctly into the relevant platforms. And, we have a great system. We're very organized. So on a day-to-day basis, even if, there's a lot to tackle, by the end of the day, we're in a good place. So I'm really
Fantastic.
thankful for
And then,
that.
and what type of trials are you working on? You said you're working on multiple studies. What therapeutic areas and what kind of trials?
So I would say there are across multiple therapeutic areas, GI, nephrology, asthma, pediatric. So it's very diverse in that sense. So it's very exciting. It's awesome. So yeah, I would say across a broad range of therapeutic areas.
And so you have to learn a lot if you're working on all
Yes.
these different therapeutic areas. Do you feel like you're
Yes.
learning every day? What is that like?
Yeah, every day it's a wonderful learning experience, and also just the excitement of being part of something new, and something that the rest of the world doesn't know about yet. Like you're working on it, and there are some patients sometimes that you know maybe they didn't know this was an option. So it's really wonderful seeing that, um and very inspiring to see that too. Just and then we have like a very diverse population around this area, so it's very rewarding to see. There's some patients who they wouldn't have been able to access this kind of medication if it were not for the clinical trials. So that is huge. It's very huge.
So important. So
Yeah.
important that one, we're providing access for these patients, but also we're working on new treatments that might not just benefit the patient, but could benefit thousands of other people. So it could have
Right.
lasting impact. What do you love most about this field, Dee? What do you enjoy the most?
So I really love interacting with patients, even when at the hospital, having that patient interaction and just connecting with them and seeing that hope in their eyes when you talk about certain medications, and just also just reassuring them. And I just love being part of the process and not just, while, writing protocols is very important and, stuff like that. It's really rewarding to be seeing the patients every day, not only having the consent discussion with them, but sometimes we do all sorts of procedures with them. For example, for asthma studies, we might do something like pulmonary function tests. You get to learn all kinds of different tests that maybe you wouldn't learn to use on like a day-to-day basis if it were not for clinical research. So that is super cool because with any kind of special test with any study, you have to learn first. So you kind of have to put yourself in the place of the patient. So there's a lot of connection and a lot of learning every step of the way.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a lightning round of questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. You've been working for over a year at Fomont Research. What's your favorite moment on the job?
My favorite moment. Oh, there's a lot of favorite moments. It's really hard. I would say honestly, I have honestly just having the opportunity to work with so many wonderful people and just knowing that we're reaching so many patients on a day-to-day basis, just seeing the patients smile when we're like, you're eligible to be randomized, like I think, just probably the first time I was able to randomize a patient, that's probably one of the most exciting things, just knowing you're eligible. Um, yeah, I
All
have a
right.
lot of
Okay.
favorite moments.
Fantastic. Okay. Next question. You ready? What's the most surprising thing about being on the job, about clinical research? What just like wowed you?
Well, the most surprising thing, huh. um Oh, I didn't like I knew that, it was a very team-based role, but I didn't know just how much of a team-based role, working in clinical research would be. Because I'm someone who, my whole life I was very independent. I was very individual, like group projects, I'd probably, I do all the work, I was one of those kids growing up. And I did work in teams before, like for example, in an editing team where I helped edit books and managing teams. But being part of a team where you each are, pulling almost an equal amount of weight, that was a little bit new to me. And it was a little bit surprising at first, like, oh, wow, like we each are so hands-on. It's not just like one person doing all the work, like, maybe in grade school, but I think that was kind of surprising for me at first, but it's been a very pleasant surprise. It's actually been really fun, especially when you get to work with really great people who care about each other. It's really rewarding.
Fantastic. I love that. It really is a team sport. There's so many people involved in these trials. It's amazing. You have sponsors, you have CROs, you have
Yeah, there's so
everyone
many people we
you're
interact
working with.
with.
Um, to work on a clinical research study, there could be thousands and thousands of people working on the same study. Absolutely incredible. Okay, next question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're ready. Okay. What impact do you want to make? Or maybe you're making it. What impact are you making or really want to make in this field?
So in this field, so my dream always since I was a kid was to help people. And since I was a kid, I would always think about how can I help people. I've done lots of volunteer work, tutoring, everything of the sort that you can think of since I was a kid. But what I really wanted to make a difference was in the medical field, as was one of my main goals since I was a kid. And knowing how much contributing to research makes a difference in the world, that is what I really hope to achieve, is being part of that change, being part of new breakthroughs, being part of these new medicines that change people's lives for the better. So
Well,
yeah.
well, Nidhi, I think you are. You are working with a great team and you're already making changes in a positive way. And there's just more to come. Um, before we wrap up, before we do, what advice would you give to people who are interested in entering the field? Some people apply to jobs and they don't know why they're not getting interviews. What would you say to them to really help them move forward and enter this field?
So in order to enter this field, I would say they should analyze, themselves. First see, am I a good team player? Am I willing to learn every day? Am I, willing to be active and, deal with patients every day and have a positive interaction with them and learn new assessments? And in order to do that, like, have the willingness to learn how to build that foundation, know exactly how do I start. And especially I've definitely recommend Clinical Research Fastrack, of course. Just to get that, I almost when you mentioned it was 8 days, I was almost taken aback. I was like, it felt like so much longer because of just how much we went through, how much we learned, in such a short amount of time. I would say you need a good strong foundation. I know a lot of people say, oh, you can't just read something or like passively learn for clinical research. But I would say when you're first starting out, it is necessary to learn those terms and have that little preview of what are these things? What do we do in on the day-to-day life to see, is it really for me? Because clinical research, it's not easy. You have to have what it takes. You have to have that passion for change. You really need to have that desire to make an impact and be part of these new breakthroughs in medicine. So that's what I would say. I'd say first people should look inward and see, do I have what it takes to be a successful clinical research professional, and then build that foundation, and then see, one of the things I did in the beginning, once I, through Clinical Research Fastrack, I learned about the different kinds of roles in research. So what I would do is, go on LinkedIn and read through, like people's paths that they took. Maybe they started as an assistant and then eventually they became a director. And it was really inspiring to see that. And also just to see there's so many different roles in research. There's something for everyone. So that was really cool to see.
Beautiful. Well, Nidhi, it is such a pleasure to see you again. Thank you
Yes.
so much for spending this time. Everyone, this is Nidhi Tiyyagura. Am I pronouncing that last name?
Tiyyagura. Yeah, Nidhi
Tiyyagura.
Tiyyagura.
Um, Nidhi is now a lead CRC at FOMAT Research. You've come so far in such a short amount of time but your future is incredibly bright. You're doing amazing work and you're a really bright light. So keep doing what you're doing. Did you have any last words or questions that you wanted to share before we part ways?
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you because I'm really happy that I found Clinical Research Fast Track. I remember talking to you like over a year ago before I even joined the course. And, everything you said at that time really, resonated with me. I remember sharing with you like my hopes in clinical, what I wanted to see in, my journey with clinical research. And it just sounded, I remember saying this is what I had been looking for. So it's really cool just to look back on that past year and see, how far I've come and, where I started and, thanks to Clinical Research Fast Track, how I was able to find something that I really enjoy and know that I'm making a difference. And, it's really rewarding. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is just the beginning for you.
Yes.
We know there are great things to come. It's already great, but you're just going to keep building on what you do.